Hi, my lovely folks. Today we are going to explore the theme of conflict through the lens of the battle for Troy. I'm Professor Eric, and I would like you to try and follow my lecture. This is a lecture I've given twice to a group of 40 or so psychotic patients. The first time I found a sub theme of bias and stereotype. This second time I actually found a sub theme of role modeling as essential to quality mental health. This time I have no idea what we're going to find, but we're definitely going to cover conflict through the lens of the battle for Troy. Okay. So I called the Battle for Troy not the Iliad because I'm going to use various sources that I pieced together that I find from myth and various writers that are helpful to illuminate the theme that I'm working on. So the origins of the conflict. Well, many of you know it probably was Helen of Troy, perhaps. So we'll take a look at that. The Greek city-states, under the lead of King Agamemnon. My spelling and fact-checking is totally open to you to give me feedback on. We're hosting a party for the famed and wealthy city of Troy. Now, at this party, no one knew exactly where Troy was, but they knew King Priam, the old king, was quite wealthy. And it was a boon to invite such a dignitary to their home for this wedding. And it was the wedding of Helen and Agamemnon's brother, Menelaus. Okay, so from Troy, they probably sailed 3-5 ships, who knows. Not a war party, just a visiting party under a treaty of truce. There was no real conflict at this time between the two city-states. At the party, Helen, considered the most beautiful woman in the world, was laid eyes upon by Paris, the young son of King Priam, who was accompanied by his famous warrior brother Hector. Now, you'll see a million spellings of Hector, but it doesn't matter which one you choose, really. This party, this wedding, ended up with Paris absconding with Helen on one of the ships back to Troy. All to the dismay of Menelaus, the king, but sub-king to the prime king, Agamemnon. So, as often is the case throughout history, this pretense of Helen being taken was a chance for King Agamemnon to rally the troops, motivate them to go fight a war, and steal King Priam's, yes, money. So, one version of the myth says that all the lords of the Greek city-states had been courting Helen, so they had a certain desire and duty to follow the king into war. And there's other versions as well, just the honor of Greece being betrayed by such an abduction, which perhaps was really a seduction, because Helen being young and beautiful and Paris being young and the lover boy type probably actually sort of had a fling and fell in love, and she went willingly. So, you would think that the war would start right away, but it doesn't. It actually starts around 10 years later, or 20, depending on how we add up the math, because of a number of factors. First and foremost, they don't know where Troy is. Another thing to keep in mind, this story is considered myth, mostly told by Homer in the Iliad. although some people claim they have now dug up the city of Troy and found it. This is unclear and dubious. One thing the Greeks do know through prophecy is that they need the hero Achilles, who's really a central figure in this beginning of the Iliad, in the first line. Oh, sing the song of the wrath of Achilles, etc., etc. Fear it. It ruins nations, essentially. Achilles, the greatest warrior the Greeks have. But at the time of the party, Achilles was a boy, born to Thetis and Peleus. Thetis being a nymph half-deity, semi-deity, Peleus being a warrior, who was taught by Zeus. Now, if I confuse the Roman gods and the Greek gods, just go ahead and write me on that and call me on that. Peleus was taught by Zeus on how to seduce Thetis, who was always escaping, essentially, rapes through shape-shifting. So Zeus, who was told by another prophet that whoever was born of Thetis would be able to defeat the gods. So to King Agamemnon, hedging his bets, as a good poker player king does, decided to arrange a marriage with a mere mortal warrior to kind of lower the odds that Achilles would be so powerful. So he taught Peleus how to just hold on to Thetis in her sea cave, no matter what, no matter how many shape-shifting she does to a tree, a serpent, etc., and then eventually you would have her and be able to mate with her. And that is what happened, and they had Achilles, who had a different name, and the name itself has different origins as well. Anyway, conflict. The roots of conflict we think are here, but they actually go earlier to this wedding of Thetis and Peleus. At this wedding, Minerva, the goddess of wisdom, there's about 12 main Greek gods, some sub-gods, sub-deities, and then the mortals. Always sort of intertwining, interplaying, interusing each other. At this wedding, Minerva, the goddess of wisdom, was in charge of setting the order of the day, sending out the invites. She invites all the gods, all the sub-gods, all the sub-deities, except one very important one called Discord, which could be another word for conflict itself. So, imagining how how upset Discord was not being invited to the grandest party of all time, up to that time, she had some trickery, being who she was. So what she did, the golden apple, was created by her, with the hovering magical words, "to the fairest," that was on it or surrounded in some mystical, magical way. At the party, where everyone's having a good time, Discord lobs the apple into the middle of the party. And they see it's to the fairest. Only 3 of the most powerful goddesses step forth to want this prize, because it's a heavy-duty contest. That's Hera, Zeus's wife, most powerful leader god, Minerva herself, and as the Greeks would call her, Aphrodite, or you might know her as Venus from the Roman terminology. So she's the god of beauty, god of wisdom, or goddess, and god of boss king, God of power, goddess of power. Now, you'll never guess who was chosen to actually give that apple to the three most powerful deities in the universe. None other than, once again, or showing up beforehand, young Paris of Troy. He happened to be at the party. So, being young, being a lover, he, being not quite wise, gives the apple to guess who? Not wisdom, not power, which might be the smart choice, folks, but to beauty. Hence, forever making Hera and Minerva the enemies of Troy. Now, in the meantime, Achilles has grown. His mother Thetis knows he has a prophecy too. He will be either one to find glory or death, or glory and death, or a long life, peaceful life. Glory and death in war, or peace and longevity. So, as he's growing, the mother hides him in another small kingdom, dressed as a girl at age 9 with a bunch of the king's court children. And since I said before, the Greeks knew they could not win the war when it came about because of the opportunity of Helen being taken. Agamemnon sends his wisest soldier leader, Odysseus, who gets his own book later, to seek out Achilles. And the way he flushes Achilles out is kind of funny. He goes, he has a sense he might be here in his travels, he's getting his instincts perk up, and he sets a bunch of girls' toys out for all the courtesan or courtiers, children, to play with. And he then sets out one spear amongst the children's toys. From that point, he rings the alarm bells of this other king, Lysaeus or Lycomedon or somebody, and everyone rushes to play with the toys, but Achilles, being a natural warrior, picks up the spear and goes to the city gates to defend the fortress. From that point on, Achilles never goes by his mother's method. He listens to her a couple times, mostly doesn't listen to her, refuses to choose peace and love, wants glory and death in exchange for eternal fame, the glory being eternal fame, and goes and trains to become a warrior for